This next speaker I'm about to introduce, but before I do, I want to, first of all, recognize our supervisor who just came. Supervisor Solis is here, so we certainly could not have produced this. We have a bunch of folks again online while we're streaming this live, and this program will be completely produced by our team, and we'll put it out there on our websites, etc. So more people will be able to enjoy it. I hope you've enjoyed it so far, but I certainly appreciate all of the sponsors, and of course you see the logos. You've seen the logos behind me, but National Community Renaissance, BYD, Budget Watchdogs, the Los Angeles Community District, College District, my friend Catherine Barger, who's not here, supervisor, and of course, Supervisor Hilda Solis. We thank you for your sponsorship as well. This next speaker that I am going to introduce is very special. And the reason why he's very special, because he sat in my classroom not long ago. The funny thing is that sometimes you have people sitting in your classroom who are wiser than you are. So the smart professor engages them and makes sure that that person actually shares that wisdom with the rest of the class. And Lance certainly has done that. Lance comes to us from Houston, Texas. He's a Texan and a proud one, but he also has an amazing engagement in his community, in his philanthropic work, and one of them, of course, relates to this topic. And when I called him and I said, hey, we're going to do something like this, he said, well, you let me know, I'll be there. And I'm so grateful that he is here. Share with us the experience that Houston actually so successfully concluded or still works with. I said, by all means, please do. Houston is a very large city, and I am so grateful that he is. Lance, please come up and share with us the experience of your hometown. Lance Gilliam, ladies and gentlemen.
So I am far more comfortable speaking on panels or in small groups than I am to big groups, but I've been given a script by our coalition, which I'm confident I won't stick to. So, well, one, thank you, Frank. USC has been very, very impactful in my life and my work, and it's an unexpected outcome from the couple of years that I spent here as a student at the EMUP program. As awful as I am at staying on script, I spent yesterday meeting with a bunch of folks in this community, and I've listened today. So I'm going to try and evolve some of my comments about our experience in Houston with what's actually relevant to you guys today. So I've changed the script that our staff has given me, which could go really well or not so well at all. So many of you may have seen this story in the LA Times. We certainly did. And I had breakfast with its author, Marshall Ingerson, yesterday. And it was remarkable to me that the author did such a great job of telling us what we were doing right when we had not actually been mindful of how to describe it. And what he described was we had a great scale of effort. We had an excellent organization, and we take the word excellent in context, and we had pragmatism. We're certainly humbled by this and acknowledge that our apparent success could easily be fleeting. It would take one day for things to go wrong if we lose focus, and that we have many lessons to be learned. We also have a pragmatic approach. We don't believe homelessness can be ended. We do believe, however, that it can become rare, brief, and non-recurring, and that's the standard of success we've used very successfully in our community. So how do we do it, and talk to the structure of this? This is what we call our program is the Way Home. And the Way Home is a collective effort to prevent and end homelessness in Houston and throughout Harris County, Fort Bend County, Montgomery counties, our metropolitan area. The Way Home is made up of 100 partners from all areas of the community, including homeless service agencies, local governments, public housing authorities, local Veterans Affairs Office, and other nonprofits and community stakeholders. And I'll speak in more detail to this in a minute. The partners of the Way Home work together to make homelessness, as I said, rare, brief, and non-recurring. And our coalition, the organization that I have the privilege of and pleasure truly of chairing is a 501c3 that is the lead agency of the Way Home. So the similarities or dissimilarities with your community, and I describe Houston to newcomers to our community as being 60 miles tall and 60 miles wide. We're about 3,600 square miles, or apparently exactly 3,711 square miles. Our city, the Houston metropolitan area is about 6 million people, maybe 7 million. Our city itself is about 2.5 million. And one of the differences in our community, and again, I'm not here to speak to the differences, but for scale and applicability, is we aren't faced with some of the jurisdictional challenges you are, and that we were talking at our table about this. Of the 6 million people in Harris County, about 2.5 million live in the city. The majority of the others live in unincorporated Harris County. They do not live in other incorporated cities. And as a result of that, our partnership with Harris County as an unincorporated governmental jurisdiction is very important to us. We also, and this was always shocking to me, as diverse as I thought LA and New York are, our city is the single most diverse city in the United States. We're a majority minority city and have been for some time. You're looking at me, I'm in the minority. Our community and its culture comes from others that have immigrated to our city, and our economy is dependent upon that. So to the numbers. Some time ago, our numbers were not too dissimilar to yours. We, at a peak, and Jess, and I forgot to introduce, so the real worker in the room is Jess Preenham, who is sitting back at the back table. You should actually have her up here instead of me because she does the great work. Wave, Jess. Jess is our Vice President of, what is it, Vice President of Strategic something? She does all the hard stuff. I just get to talk about it and be proud of it. But these are the numbers we were talking about. Not that long ago, we had a dramatically different outlook on homelessness. Now, we're also trying to be honest about our numbers. We use a point in time count like you guys do. As I've learned here at USC and knew before, it is the most awful, awkward way of accumulating data. It's looking for homeless people, writing them down, getting them into the systems. And we don't think that the point in time count necessarily represents the real numbers, but we think it's a good indicator, certainly, of about what the number may be, but most importantly, may be a good indicator. If we continue to use the same flawed system over and over again, we'll get an indication of outcome and success. So we do believe it's a legitimate source of data, but again, we're not so bold as to tell you it tells us exactly the problem. The other question I was asked yesterday, and I think this is relevant to all of us in this community, is our data trusted? In Houston, it is. We are a trusted partner that when we tell somebody that's the number, it's the number, at least the best number we have. The other question I was asked, which I found more interesting, was, if you had bad numbers, would you tell everybody? And the answer is 100%. If we weren't being successful, or we had data, or the bumps like we had in COVID, we shared that with our community, and we owned it. It was something that motivated us and caused us to work harder, not something to put to the side or frankly bitch about. And I thought it was an interesting question because it never really occurred to me that someone wouldn't trust us. So again, this is what our numbers have looked like. We have housed more than 25,000 people experiencing homelessness since 2012. We've had a close to 90% success rate, and we define that as looking back over a 2-year period. How have we done it? And I've worked on this as I've listened today, is the best I can tell you is we've done a collaborative effort focused on a single clear outcome using a structure of coordinated resources with our partners. So it's been worked together, we've collaborated, we've single focused. There are few egos allowed in the room, but yet we've done this as partners. And these partners have included our funders, they've included service providers, and they've included others who have the desire for a single outcome. And the way home is the way that we bring all those folks together, and our organization provides the lead for that as we attempt to achieve these successes. Now, it hadn't always been that way. So this is a great couple graphs that are charts that our staff shared with me. This is what it used to look like in Houston before 2010, 2012. It was, our staff calls this what is pick up sticks graphic. And this was what access to services for our clients looked like. Clearly it was messy, confusing, and not all coordinated across agencies. This is what funding looked like. I mean, y'all figure this out. I can't, and I'm actually not an expert in this space. I'm just a real estate finance guy and run a couple of companies. So in the same vein, we had this mess of what we had in our system. This is what it looks like today. So in 2012, it changed. We created the Way Home. It was the name for our local homeless response system. That engaged many others, and now all of those direct services are coordinated under the Way Home through a coordinated access system, again, a system that we lead. What I can tell you too, going back to what the turning, I was asked again yesterday, what was the aha moment or the turning point? And as great a job as this mayor has done, and Mayor Turner, as great a job as our county judge has done, and folks around her, some of this simply goes back to, and from my experience, to President Obama or Mrs. Obama's initiative, Opening Doors. In 2006 and 2010, we were asked to address veterans homelessness. And our then mayor, Mayor Parker, told us to get together as leaders in the community. I was then chairman of our housing authority, and we brought all of us together and we figured it out. And we got in one room, and instead of making folks who were the veterans who were homeless have to wander around our community, finding different places, getting up in the morning, trying to get their personal needs together, and then finding mobility, which we don't have to do a great job of in Houston, to get from crosstown to backtown. We came into one room, and in that moment, we found out we could be successful. We were one of the first cities in the country to effectively end veterans homelessness. If you're a veteran in Houston today and you want to be housed, we can do that today. It should not exist in our community. It still does, but I can house a veteran with Jess's and others' help today. So we saw that effectiveness start, and it started back in 2010. And really that was accomplished in 2014 and 15 is when we actually achieved that goal. So it wasn't that long ago. And I love a quote from Mandy Chapman Simple, who some of y'all know, very, very impactful in our community, and even I think is engaged with yours. She said, when everyone can come together with a single goal, shared measurements, and reinforcing a guy can't even read my own, reinforcing activity, spectacular things can happen. Don't you love when you can't read your own handwriting from the back of the table? So I love the spectacular things can happen when you want them to. So this is our steering committee, and you can get an idea by looking at the folks involved in this. This is a very diverse group. It's the key piece of coordination at the Way Home. It provides board-like governance and leadership for our homeless initiatives and ensuring coordination and alignment. And this committee, as you can see, includes stakeholders from a variety of different partners in the community, including supportive service providers, the lived experience community, which is important to us to hear from actually those folks we really serve. And by the way, I will tend to talk about structures and outcomes. We know this is about people. I'm just a systems guy, and the gentleman who runs the coalition for us is the same. We have the same heart, but we try to set up a sustainable system to use outcomes. So, again, perhaps the most important feature of the Way Home is our shared commitment to housing first. And let me digress again on this one. I always call it housing first plus plus. None of us believe that you can simply hand many people a key to a home and say good luck. We're there for them. So when we combine housing, we combine permanent housing with supportive services. So people experiencing homelessness are moved into permanent housing as quickly as possible, and then provided with supportive services, which we, of course, as this room knows, case management, healthcare, substance abuse counseling, income coaching, and more to help them remain stabilized in housing and improve the quality of life. Our perspective is housing is not the cause of homelessness. Housing is one of the primary solutions to homelessness. So we have a little bit different perspective than some others. Oddly enough, the single biggest constraint to our success in Houston today is the availability of housing. We have overshot our own marks. And as we've been successful in housing people, we're having to re-engage. And hopefully we'll have some more exciting news in a couple of weeks to identify enough housing in which to put people who we have the financial resources through vouchers and other resources to pay for. So it's not a money issue. And I think I've heard that with you too, guys. You guys have money. It's just how to deploy those funds in an effective way. So let me talk about real quickly, in our community, we actually had, and this is where I love my USC, I learned all these fancy words, externalities. I'm not even sure what that was a long time ago, but now I use it all the time. So we actually had a couple aha moments in our history. Externalities we had little control over, but there were three things. One of them, we had a change in leadership at the coalition. And it came about unexpectedly, but it came about in the process. We retained a new CEO. It was before my time, right before my time, in fact. We retained a new CEO who came out of our business community, had a huge heart, but had a history of running one chief operating officer of a big public company, and then chief operating officer of a large private company. And he was a very systems-oriented guy with a huge heart, but wanted to create a structure. And he's done a phenomenal job. The other one goes to, I guess, our board's credit. And Jessica, be careful when I go home and tell about this. But we rebuilt our board. And I was brought on, so I later learned by Harris County, to help rebuild our board. And the way we rebuilt our board is we rebuilt our board largely out of our partners. We brought our leaders from other community funders, supportive service agencies, those board members into our boardroom so we could hold each other accountable towards those outcomes. And if we had a problem, which we've had problems from time to time in our system, I was able to confront that peer of mine on the board and call him or her and say, hey, we have a problem. I need you in your role as a leader in this other organization. I need your money and your leader in your other organization. I need you to step up and help us out. And we've done that as a family, and it's been extremely effective. And then the second thing that happened, was, and in Houston, our county and city elections are nonpartisan. And you're going to have to watch me on time to just make sure, are nonpartisan. Technically, we don't have Republicans and Democrats. That's not the real world. Our city historically has been Democrats, and our county has historically been Republicans. In an election a few years ago now, unexpectedly, it was going to happen sooner or later, but it happened faster than we thought. The Democrats took over, won at the county level. And it took away attention that we had between our leaders. It was never appropriate. But it took away that politics of it, and it gave us the opportunity to try and succeed without the political implications. Combining that with the third thing, which was COVID funds, and the tragedy of COVID brought so much money to all of our communities, the county and the city found it was best efforts was to collaborate and towards a common goal, to put their money together. They took politics out of it, and we were given the opportunity to succeed. So that goes back basically to the point of we were able to not only have good governance, but great investment of our funds. To COVID. So we're fortunate to have built the kind of working relationship with the city of Houston and Harris County that they came to us when they were given COVID dollars as a trusted advisor and system leader to help define how that money should be spent. And ultimately, they gave us that money to invest on their behalf. Originally, in phase one was announced in July of 2020. Our initial goal, and this is super cool, I'm really proud of our team for doing this. That was our strategy to house those 5,000 people. We'll jump past this. You can see it's what we've all talked about today. And that's what we've accomplished. We've exceeded our own expectations. We've blown through the number, and as of February 2021, we had housed 7,700 folks. And that's for you, Jess, not for me. To just simply remind us, we as a board know that it's about the people. We monitor governance in the system, but these are the folks we serve and some of our families. This is the other, and it may be of interest to you guys. We've had a very, very effective encampment response strategy that was funded by COVID dollars. The federal COVID funding allowed us to decommission, is the term we use at encampments in Houston, as not only were they unsightly, but more importantly, they weren't the best places for folks to live. As we did that, this is a summary of what we've accomplished to date. Again, scale compared to what you're facing in your community, but we were able to engage 372 folks. We directly rehoused 66% of them, 25% of them self-resolved, which is a complicated answer, and then 10% of them just refused support. One of the things we were talking about at our table, we won't engage an encampment until we have homes for those folks to go to. We don't displace people, we rehouse people. And this is an example. We can show you many pictures just like this one. This encampment was right outside downtown Houston and may look familiar to you from your own community. And we did this, and it's, again, interesting feedback I've had in your community. No one protested. In fact, the community supported us in getting this done because these folks left here, and in most cases, all of them had the opportunity to go directly into a home. Most of them chose to go into a home. So we're now going into phase 2 of CHIP. And this is our stunning news that goes to the success of our organization, our Way Home initiative, and our coalition. It's the city of Houston and Harris County, who didn't used to play well together at all, now has played so well together, even with the state of Texas, that we've been given $100 million, which is for us is extraordinary. And that'll come over a 3-year period. So this $100 million should be used to house another 7,000 folks, which is actually more than we have on the streets today. But we realize, again, that number probably understates the real number over the next few years. Looking back at what's really made the difference for us from the essential decisions we made in 2012, we focused on permanent housing with supportive services. Our steering committee for the homeless response system is led by our public funders and adjacent systems, and I would say really our philanthropic community also. Our role as the lead agency, we prioritize the most vulnerable first, and our nonprofits are our partners. They collaborate with us as we support them in their funding sources and their outcomes. Again, in summary, we have a macro viewpoint. We look at a high level. So as a lead agency, we must have a macro viewpoint, flexibility, independence, and independence is key. We're not a political organization. We're a 501c3, and our board reflects our community. We have the energy, and then we go get the money. And this is the last slide. And this is, I've sat here again today and listened yesterday. And it is ironic that someone from LA, Marshall, would tell us what we've done well, and he's actually the source of this. Scale of effort, excellent organization, and pragmatism, but it really goes to governance. And a lot that I learned from Frank and talk about governance is governance structure and then collaboration towards a single outcome. And I'll throw one other thing that I thought about because I was asked the question yesterday, is what happens if politics change? And I think we've earned the support of our community, and I certainly pray we have, that politics don't matter in our community anymore. I don't care if it's Democrats or Republicans. We as a community across the board have made a commitment to get this done, and we're not afraid of failure. I heard that today. Failure is just another day. It's just a lesson learned. You just get up and do it again. It doesn't occur to us not to succeed, and we know this is the right thing to do. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm happy for you to engage Jess.
Lance, that was awesome. Thank you for sharing your many successes that you've enjoyed in Houston. The takeaways from your presentation serves as a practical example of action for our organizations, our communities. One of the things that really resonates with me personally is collaboration. And, when you look at Houston, the population density, the geographical footprint, some of the things that you had to overcome. We've had our challenges here, and there's a lot we can learn from you. BizFed Institute, this is what we're known for, is bringing thought leaders together and trying to figure it out. So, I want to thank you again, and we really appreciate what you've shared with us today.